Okay, gotta do this manually because not enough light. My camera can't really find my face. 1 second, I'm gonna be looking at you in just a second. Something like that. Run the intro. Nighttime. Welcome back, everyone. So in this video, we're going to be talking about nighttime photography and long exposure shots. Nighttime photography, long exposure? Yeah, whatever. We're going to be talking about nighttime photography. Now, like myself, I imagine that anyone that buys a camera for the first time and you're doing your first couple of shoots, you're going out there, you're snapping photos, you're just straight savage with the camera, which is awesome. But probably like me, as soon as the sun went down, you would just put the camera away. It's like, nope, sun's gone, golden hour. Nope, I only shoot during golden hour, either sunrise or sunset. That's it. That's not the case. Nighttime photography has such a uniqueness to it. As I'm discovering, as we're all learning through this art form that we all know and love, we're all in this together, we're all just learning this together. So in this video, I want to explain a couple of tips for nighttime photography. Now, right now, I am at the Luna Park in Sydney, Australia, overlooking the beautiful Harbour Bay Bridge and the city skyline. You see the Opera House. It looks nice, especially at nighttime. All the city lights, the train going across the bridge right now, that looks cool. I don't know, I just love nighttime. It just looks beautiful. So naturally, I want to try and get some nighttime shots like this. Nighttime photography. There are two things that are the really crucial things to know, and another one that's kind of important also to know. Now, if you watch my camera basics, explaining the basics of your camera, all the things that you need to know to combine them in order to get good photos, if you haven't watched it, click somewhere above my head. I'll post it. I'll thumbnail it. Anyway, in this video, we're gonna be focusing on your f-stop and your shutter speed. Now, if you watch the other video, shutter speed is how long your shutter is staying open in order to capture an image, how fast that mirror flashes. And your f-stop is basically how open or how closed and how much light your lens is letting in through the aperture blades. For nighttime photography, there's not a lot of light. So to compensate for that, instead of pumping that ISO up, which is the other little kind of important thing to know, with nighttime photography, you can pump up your ISO, but then it becomes really busy, is what we call it in photography. The blacks and the darks don't really look that great because it just looks busy. We call it noise. So instead of pumping up that ISO and the blacks just look bad and the shadows just, it just doesn't look good, leave that ISO at the minimum setting that you can set on your camera. The next thing you want to do for your shutter speed, you want to open up, you want a long shutter speed or a long exposure shot, which means instead of 1/60th of a second, typically for, standard shutter speed, 1/60th of a second or 1/200th of a second or 1/1000th of a second, that shutter is closing way too fast to let in any of the natural light of the surrounding lights. So instead, we're going to be going in the opposite direction. We're going to be opening up for 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 20 second, with your shutter speed timed out for 20 seconds, 15 seconds, or even minute-long exposures. The shutter is staying open for that entire 20 seconds, so it's letting in all of that light. Now, if you left your f-stop at, let's say, the widest open that it could be, at 2.8, you'd probably get a photo that looks like this. Doesn't look that great, so how do we compensate for that? How do we get those nice nighttime photography shots that we're all seeing? Well, this is where you're going to be closing your aperture. Instead of having it wide open to let in all of that light, you're going to be closing it off because your shutter is staying open. It's letting in all the light, so we need to compensate by closing the aperture. Now, for some of these shots that I got tonight, my aperture was set at 14, 16, and 18. So the aperture, the opening of that iris on the camera, is just a little pinhole. It's not letting in that much light because the shutter is staying open for so long. It's getting all of that information. It's getting all of that light brought in through the shutter. So by compensating, by closing up the aperture blades, we're able to get photos like this. So keep your ISO at the lowest possible setting. Have a long exposure, 15, 20 second, whatever you want, and compensate with the aperture by closing up that iris. Now, another helpful tip. With these long exposure shots, what tends to happen is when you're hitting that shutter button on your camera, you notice a little bit of camera shake, a little bit of motion blur. When you press that shutter button, you get a little bit of camera shake. Now, one trick is using a timer. Another one, a more practical way that a lot of people will probably tell you, is to go out and buy a shutter remote, which is something you can plug into your camera and you can control all the settings from there. You can press the shutter button from the controller without actually touching your camera. That way you don't get any motion blur. A lot of people use these controllers for the really long exposure shots, like with the 1 hour or 2 hour exposure shots, because, well, your camera setting just doesn't have that naturally. You have to control that through the controller. But instead of going out and spending money, if you're just a hobbyist photographer and you don't want to go out and spend like another $100 on a controller, set a timer. Do you remember those photos during family dinners and someone would set up a camera at the one end of the room, press the button and then run to the couch or run to wherever everyone's standing just to be in the shot? This is exactly what we're doing. The exact same thing, except no one's running and no one's holding that smile for 10 seconds. That really awkward smile, like, did it take the f***ing picture yet? Did it? No. None of that awkwardness. So instead, on your own camera, set up a timer. For me, I set up a 2-second timer or a 5-second timer so that when I hit my shutter button, it gives those 2 to 5 seconds for my camera to stabilize again and I don't get any of that motion blur. Problem solved. Didn't have to buy anything. It was free. It already came with the camera. That's it, guys. I hope you found this tutorial a little bit helpful, a little bit insightful, and a little bit inspiring. After getting some of these awesome shots, I'm just pumped. I just want to keep on going and getting more nighttime photography shots. All right, you guys know what to do. If you like this video, smash that button, smash that like button 2019 style. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good night. I'm gonna go get some more photos. Bye. I need my camera. Later, guys.